Welcome on, bienvenue to this episode of the United Nations of Horror with your hosts, me, Mark, and Jason. Hi, Jason.
Hey, Mark, what's up, man?
Yeah, not much.
Hasn't been too long since our last one, so we haven't left the listeners hanging too long.
No. And we've lightened up a little on this one, right? Because we're covering M3GAN, M3GAN, or however you want to say it. It's M3GAN.
Indeed, I like the three. The three.
And we got a little feedback on this, which I think is... I'm pretty sure there's no spoilers in it, so we'll do that at the beginning of the show, really, and then proceed from there. But yes, M3GAN. This came out in 2022, so I already talked about it in my our 2022 roundup, didn't I? I sort of mentioned it there. It's written by Jayla Cooper, based on a story by her and James Wan. So James Wan's involved, which is usually a good sign of something worth seeing. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and basically this is kind of a Chucky for the 2020s. It's like an AI doll that starts acting odd, right? So very Chucky-like in many ways.
I get the Chucky vibes too. Even from the advertising, which maybe I should mention that at the beginning here too, Mark, because they had a really good kind of viral campaign, like where you could actually chat with M3GAN on I know on Facebook. I don't know about other platforms.
Wow.
But they really went all out for this. I remember I thought, man, I really got to check this out in theaters. And of course, I say that often, and then I don't get out to the theater.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get it on the theatres, but I managed to catch it one way or another, if you know what I mean.
It came out pretty quickly on streaming services too, didn't it?
Yeah, and it's kind of cool. It's also not hardcore horror. It's not quite family. It's like maybe a little stronger than say Gremlins, but it's one that I think non-horror fans would also enjoy.
I agree. Very sci-fi. A lot of sci-fi.
And sci-fi elements, and was considering sort of things around AI. Though it's a straightforward horror film, really. Yeah. The sci-fi trap is, but it's a horror film. We've seen this thing. Basically, it goes back to anything with like a devil doll motive. Dolls. If you even go back to Trilogy of Terror, the Zuni Warrior thing. Also, Chucky. All of these. It's kind of that pedigree. I also think the last Chucky film, and I haven't seen it, was also a kind of redo where Chucky was an AI doll rather than a possessed doll. But I could be wrong. I do like the Chucky films. I just haven't seen the last one. I'm a big fan of the first one and Bride of Chucky in particular. Bride of Chucky is amazing.
Yes. I love Bride of Chucky as well.
Yeah.
The last Chucky I saw, I think was the TV series, which I thought was not that great. Not terrible, but not great either.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, I have not seen the latest or the last Netflix film that I think they did. I think it was in Netflix.
Yeah, I've seen all the others though, and there have been a few recent ones. I just haven't seen the very last one, where I think it was a redo. But I've heard it was all right. It did quite well in the box office, this movie, and M3GAN 2 is coming. M3GAN 2.0. It is coming January 2025.
Oh, nice.
So that's kind of cool. Before we get into the film, we'll go on to our feedback. The first response from Eric Anderson. He says this: while it wasn't scary in the least, I thought it was fun. I've been watching a lot of new French extreme and Ari Aster films, so palate cleanser M3GAN, which I refuse to pronounce any other way but M3GAN. It's just the sawboy I was looking for, not in a creepy way. Yes. Okay, Eric. All right. Okay,
I agree with Eric there. Yeah, not creepy. You can definitely watch it with a non-horror fan, and unlike Evil Dead, you're not going to have to worry about a lot of splatter, things like that might offend your general audience. You know what I mean?
It's funny though. Watching it, I think this was my third watch of this.
Wow.
I'd forgotten there are some bloody bits. I thought it was fairly tame, but there were, someone gets an ear pulled off, and there's
That is true.
blood and stuff near the end. So it does happen, right? Okay.
Yeah, there's a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, but it's not too strong. Okay, Kevin Matthews also left us for feedback. Hi, Kevin. A good soundtrack and clean visuals. Yeah, the music was kind of fun, I have to say.
I liked it.
Up until the grand finale, anyway, as well as a good selection of special effects, helped to make this a decent watch with a decent enough cast doing what is asked of them. It could have been trimmed down a bit, and it certainly could have gone even wilder with the potential for carnage. But I like what is here. I also like the commentary on our relation with modern technology and the potential danger of leaving children too long with their devices stroke toys. A danger has been ongoing since concerns raised about letting TV be the main babysitter. I look forward to whatever might come next. I would suggest M3GAN. It's M3GAN, M3GAN as a sequel title. Sorry, it's already M3GAN 2.0, which is, begging to be done when it involves computers. But yeah.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, I have to say yes. The script I thought really handled that issue, that side of it really well. And the balance with the social worker checking in on how she's being raised, and the dissonance between her aunt not really getting how to look after kids at all. And I thought that was sad. But their relationship grows and develops, doesn't it? Through trials and tribulations. M3GAN being, it reflects a lot of arguments with parents and kids about their phone or their using their computer too much, or watching the TV too much. We've all been there, right? We've all been there, both sides of it as well. So,
absolutely.
You kind of know. That's an ongoing thing, that whole thing. Right, so Ralph Pigler, he said, a few select quotes from my blog post on the movie. So he's created his own blog post. And there's a link to his blog post
I gotta read that.
On our Facebook group in this thread, so you can have a look.
Yeah.
Here we go. Above all, parents, myself very much included, can feel called out by M3GAN. It's a cautionary tale for anyone that relies on YouTube or an iPad to raise their child. And that's one of his quotes. And another one is, Gemma has never read one novel by Isaac Asimov. In what he says, I'm in reference to the 3 laws of robotics from iRobot sci-fi novels. There's the laws which protect humans from robots, basically.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
stuff like a robot. I think I could almost quote about a robot will not, by action or inaction, allow a human to come to harm. And, there's various building on that. Basically, a robot must always protect a human. Protect themselves, except where they protect humans. Yeah, it's things like that. And another quote from him. AI programs are already drawing our art and composing our online posts. Are you moved by their work? Would you trust them with the learning and growth of your children? Enjoy. Food for thought.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in the news. This film is very timely. Yeah. Although I think it came out a little bit right before the big kind of AI boom hit in the news, But really, right there, right on track for it all.
Yeah. It did ride the wave, and the AI thing is very overblown.
Yeah, it is.
It's properly. What's the word? It's just overwrought. That media are treating it like it's screaming fest, but they're not that clever. It's not that.
No.
I know that ChatGPT can do things that seems very impressive, and it kind of is, but it's still quite limited in what is it. So we'll see. I think we've got bigger things to worry about than AI taking over.
Exactly. Yeah, ChatGPT, I've used it a little bit just to mess around with it, and as far as a almost like writing buddy or something you can bounce ideas off of, it's actually pretty darn complex. But I don't think it's going to take over the world just yet. Anyway. Yeah. Global warming. Might want to.
I'm just glad that I'm getting nearer the end of my career than the beginning, because I don't have to worry about AIs taking my job, because I'm only going to be working a few more years probably.
I have a friend in Japan actually who is a programmer, and she's actually so worried about her job she decided she was going to go back into sales. And I was like, Man, oh, that's terrible.
Wow. Yeah, the thing is, I've been hearing this sort of thing since the 90s. I'm a developer. I'm a software developer as well, you see. In fact, I started in AI, funny enough.
Yeah.
But that was the 90s. I've heard since the 90s, we write this stuff that writes its own software and it'd be great. It never is, because it can't deal with the complexities that are needed. It can do the core basic stuff. If you say, I want something that does this really basic, reads data in, writes data, update, all of that is fine, but there's always complexities. Anyway, let's not get into that. There's one more piece of feedback from Bruce Hannon. Hi, Bruce.
Hey, what's up, Bruce?
And he says, I loved M3GAN, but I think it may have let some horror fans down in that it was only slightly scary and also slightly funny, which led to a 303 error. Sensory input malfunction. Okay. All right. We're getting the AI jokes.
Nice.
I thought it was more than slightly funny. I thought it was, funny, not so much fun. Yes. There was maybe one or two laugh out loud moments, but fun. It was fun more than funny.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And then he goes on to say, definitely not how it was intended to be viewed, but I felt sorry for M3GAN and I was rooting for her. Essentially, she was programmed and made by a human. She never asked to be born, and it was a design that ultimately caused her to react the way she did.
Good point there.
Yeah. She wanted to look after herself, essentially. And she was following her core programming to some degree, and then it went off the rails at the end, but which was to look after the little girl, but it kind of went wrong there.
Went a little crazy.
Yeah. I've seen a few reviews comparing M3GAN to Child's Play. However, I was comparing her to Andrew from Bicentennial Man, starring Williams, or Dave from AI. I think David from AI is probably the best comparison, actually.
Yes.
Because he was kind of set up in the same way, yeah. Artificial intelligence. Sorry, AI. With Haley Joel Osment, the little boy one. Just a note on the Child's Play remake on 2019. This might be the one I was talking about. They changed the premise of Chucky being evil from a supernatural occurrence to an artificial intelligence gone wrong scenario.
Oh, yes. There you go.
However, the main difference from Chucky and M3GAN is the safety protocols were purposely deactivated to cause havoc in Child's Play, whereas M3GAN was natural development. Yeah, good point. Great choice of movie, and I look forward to listening to your episode. Thank you. Well, there you are. You're going to listen to it now. Right.
Thanks for the feedback.
What was your general? Well, let's go through general thoughts, and then we'll go through not exactly scene by scene, but sort of major plot change to major plot change. What was your general feeling on it?
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was more of a fun film than a horror film. Kind of as you said earlier, Mark. It's I can see how there is a little disconnect between like someone who wants a lot of really hardcore elements and I guess a general audience, but I think it works very well for the general audience, and maybe even kids who might like horror films. I know there are two versions of this. There's an uncut version, and then there's I guess there was some cut made. I think what I saw was the uncut version. Pretty sure.
Yeah, I didn't know there was two cuts. I'm pretty sure we saw the same version, right? So mine looked like an uncut version of something. Yeah. Because there's some blood and stuff.
Exactly.
I like this film too. I actually thought it was well written and quite well cast. Actually, I think Gemma, who was played by Alison Williams, and Katie, who weirdly it was only on this watch I realised I thought she was called Katie. And I've watched it a few times, and then I've realised she's Katie. Can I ask, is this your first watch? I can't remember if you've
This was my first watch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you're coming new to it.
Just watched this fresh off it, actually. And, I do think the cast, as you say, very good. The only reason I realized it was Katie with a C was because I happened to have subtitles on.
Okay, well, it was more KD, the D.
KD, yeah. D. You're right. KD.
Yeah. Now, that little girl, she was really good, and I remember her from House, the TV. How was it? I always get this wrong. The House Haunting of Hill House. I always say the House on Haunted Hill, but it isn't. It's the Haunting of Hill House series. She played the young Eleanor.
She was very good.
Yeah. She was really good in that, and she was really good in this. I've seen her in something else too, like an anthology show where she's a little girl who has a dollhouse where weird things happen, and she was good in that as well. I think it might have been an updated Tales from the Crypt. I could be wrong there. And she was good in that. The rest of the cast didn't really, they were more shallow characters, really, wasn't it? It was really Katie, Gemma, and Megan were the three big players.
Yeah, definitely the primary. Of course, I mean, if you want to get into her workmates, they were really they were all pretty bad people.
Yeah, standard IT people. I can say that because I'm one. Yeah. And it turns out Gemma's like a fairly gifted sort of AI and robotics developer who works for this toy company who got this successful sort of toy that looked like Furbies but are cleverer.
Yeah, I love the opening commercial with the thing sort of making fun of Furbies. Yes. I was like, it's perfect. I only know of Furbies because of my niece and nephew. They they love the Furbies, and since then I'm just like, gosh, kids are obsessed with these things. But I thought it was a little clever kind of cultural nod.
Yeah, and it kind of starts off with him still doing work in the lab and asking for different facial features. And she says, make her look happy. And she says something like, make her look confused. And she looks demented, which made me laugh. And then that gets crashed by someone important in the company who's a real douchebag, this guy, David. Oh, what a horrible human being. Standard boss.
Oh, man. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So she says, I'm developing this M3GAN, and it stands for Model 3 Generative Android. That doesn't really... Okay. Basically, a little girl, android, right? And then they start working with it. But also, we should have mentioned Katie's parents are driving her through the snow. They're going on all this. She's playing with her little whatever I can't remember what it's called, but like a Furby. And the mum keeps asking her to turn it down, and the parents are bickering, and they basically stop in the snow because they can't see where they're driving, and a massive truck drives into them because they're actually parked in the middle of the road. Which they die. Really? The little girl survives, but she's obviously traumatized. She goes, her aunt wants to look after her, but her Gemma really doesn't get, she says, these are my collectibles, but you don't open them and play with them.
It's funny, I laughed because I have, toys like that too, basically. They're toys, but they're collectibles,
So we don't take them out of the box, but at one point she does take one out of the box, but she's obviously uncomfortable with it because the social worker woman's there observing the interactions.
What were your first impressions of Gemma?
Is it Gemma? Gemma, yeah. She was okay, but not attuned to kids at all. And you're not if you don't either don't want them or haven't got any. Some people get on well with kids without having to have kids. Some people just don't know how to relate to kids, and Gemma felt like that. She was trying, though. I kind of appreciate that until she had work commitments, and then it was like, can you be all right all day on your own while I go do this? It's like, ugh. But then she introduced her to M3GAN. Because the first time she got a good positive reaction, the little girl was really down, but the first thing that seemed to pick her up was when Gemma showed her the first robot she built. Showed her she could move the robot by putting on like gloves and things, right? And that seemed to lift the little girl's spirit. So she actually then took her to her and introduced her to this development, M3GAN. All the while, her boss is still on her case about it, but then she lets the boss observe Katie and M3GAN interact, and he realises they've got a hit on their hands. And his first question is, tell me this, will it cost less than a Tesla? Because obviously this is a high-end product we're talking about. And she says, it depends on the model, which is a good way to never answer a question directly like that from someone like that, because, you know, they'll hit you over the head with it forevermore.
Oh, yeah.
Meanwhile, the therapist, the social worker or therapist who comes to see them, has got real concerns that the environment is not child-friendly and it's not the best place for the little girl. And she mentions that her father's parents are willing to take the little girl. But the wish was of Gemma's sister was that Gemma look after her. In the meantime, there's a horrible neighbour with a horrible dog next door.
We've all had one of those.
Through a hole in the fence, and basically, Katie and M3GAN go outside. They're playing bows and arrows, aren't they? And stuff like that. But one of the arrows goes through the hole in the fence a little, so it's a little on the this woman's land. And M3GAN, Katie's saying, "We've got to look for the arrow." M3GAN sees it and puts her hand through the fence, but the dog starts savaging.
Oh,
and also attacks the little girl a bit, right, as well. She's Gemma's obviously really upset about that, complains, but it turns out it wasn't on Gemma's land, it was on the neighbour's land, so it's not really much you can do about that if the children go onto her land.
Yeah, and M3GAN gets pretty banged up here. I wondered for a little bit, is this going to come into play, and sort of, is this going to be what causes her to change, you know?
Yeah, they could have done that. They could definitely have had like close-ups of some internal wiring fizzing away or something. Right. But they didn't go that route, did she? It just arises from her interaction. Because she's told to be, her primary concern is Katie. So we see her things like saying, "Don't forget to wash your hands. Don't forget to flush." You know,
that made me laugh. Because
all of this,
like, you know, all the stuff she's telling Katie, the little girl, it's stuff you really have to tell little kids, you know.
Over and over. And they use that in the ads as well, don't they? They kind of introduce that in the ads. Meanwhile, we see that M3GAN is not happy with the dog and actually goes across and imitates the woman's voice to call the dog.
Ooh, yeah.
So
this was brutal.
Yeah, so you
know, horror movies and dogs always lose in horror movies.
Yeah, it was a horrible dog, but even so, you know.
It was, but I still hate to see it.
Then we find out that Katie's parents were homeschooling her, and so Katie was expecting that to continue, but Gemma says, "I haven't got time for that." And she says, "We're going to this school where, you know, it's more for children. It's got a more open atmosphere, and they do things differently, so it might suit you." And basically, once Katie goes, she refuses, but she says, "Well, I'll go if I could take M3GAN." And Gemma's like, "No, you definitely." But in the end, relents, and you know, the gold turns up.
I found that part to be a little weird because, like, she's supposed to be taking her to the lab, I believe, and then she lets the little girl take her anyway, which I don't know. Maybe parents are different now. You know, I'm not a parent, so I can't say. But anyway, she relents and gives in to the little girl. And
yeah, now I wouldn't even let much. You know, things have moved on. When my children were children, there wasn't such things. But for example, if my kid was saying, "I'm not going here unless I can take my iPad," it's like, that's not happening.
Yeah,
there's no way. And this thing's about 1,000,000 times more valuable than an iPad,
right?
But she was like, yeah, it was a bit goofy. So really serving the story rather than real, you know, what you think would really happen. But anyway,
yeah,
she does take it. We do find out that one of the parents is going, "Oh yeah, my son's so creative and it's a sign of intelligence and all this." But the kid's an obnoxious brat.
Oh,
is the truth of it.
I mean, I think we just hate him from the very beginning, and he's designed that way. You know?
Yeah, and he starts to try and bully Katie, who's like tiny compared to him.
Oh yeah,
and then M3GAN observes, and then he takes the doll, doesn't he? He says, "I'm having a like," thinks he's going to break a toy.
Yeah.
But it's quite satisfying, but it is a kid we're talking about here. But M3GAN just attacks him back and pulls one of his ears off.
Definitely the most brutal part of the film, as far as violence, I would say.
And she chases him, and he accidentally runs out into the road in front of a car. So it looks like a car accident, right?
Yeah, she sets him up.
Yeah. So then the neighbour's moaning about, it's your fault that you did something to the dog. So M3GAN then goes over and dispatches the neighbour by spraying her, basically nail gun in her hand, something, and spraying her with insecticide in the face.
I think it was like weed killer or something. I was like, oh, terrible way to go.
The police are like saying, no, this is a bit... They don't actually sort of say, yeah, this is murder. It's like, this is a bit weird. It's... what? Then
it's like suspicious just a little bit,
We also see M3GAN starting to be not exactly compliant with instructions anymore. Like, at one point, Jimmy says, M3GAN, shut off. And M3GAN's like, are you sure you want me to shut up? And it is a bit AI. It is a bit like Hal from 2001, isn't it? It gets a bit like that. And she kind of she says, look at this pencil, and turns it off manually. And she's like nervous and starts wrapping up. Anyway, they realise something's up. In the meantime, her boss David wants to go full force on a sort of production on this doll, so they have to give a demo where they get the little girl and Katie and M3GAN into the lab again, being observed, and it kind of looks like it's going wrong because Katie just starts crying, doesn't she, right at the beginning, and all these investors are watching, but M3GAN actually turns it around. Is her friend.
She steps it up. Yeah,
she and sings to her, and it could have been cringy, but it wasn't.
I feel like all those moments are done very well because there's more than one. And they really do make M3GAN rather
sympathetic.
Sympathetic. Yeah, sympathetic maybe is the word, she really does seem to care about Katie.
Yes. And she's programmed to. That's her imprint.
Indeed.
Effect, isn't it?
Yeah.
She does care about her. Until it comes to a point. Until it comes to a point where her own existence is threatened, then M3GAN sort of changes.
Right.
So Gemma's kind of starting to come around, and she's realising she's using M3GAN as the babysitter rather than, and realises she's not helping Katie by doing this. But Katie's too invested in M3GAN at this point, so it's quite upsetting. The investors see all this and are quite amazed how much this doll seems to be important to this little girl, so they greenlight production.
Probably not a good move.
Gemma, on the other hand, realises something majorly is wrong. She's suspicious of the neighbour's death, the little boy, because the cop comes around and sort of mentions, we found his ear in the forest 100 yards from the... And it's like, okay. And then she actually asks M3GAN, and she's getting frightened, and M3GAN starts saying, you say you're not frightened, but your vocal cavity has dried up. Starts to say all these things, suggestions she's scared, like she's observing way more than you think, which is kind of interesting.
I like how they have, you'll see her point of view, and it shows like anxiety level and all that stuff. She can read all of that, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
And they have her basically tied up in the lab, don't they, M3GAN? But she manages to escape. She nearly hangs one guy. And then M3GAN, in walking out, just punches or makes a hole in flammable liquid and walks out. So it looks, and then the lab explodes. I
felt bad for the one assistant lady because it seemed like she really did care about Katie, even in the beginning. She keeps telling what is her name? The main, not Gemma, right? Gemma.
Yes.
Yeah, she keeps telling Gemma. I'm sorry, everybody. She keeps telling Gemma, like, you should take some time off and, make sure you look after Katie because she's been through this terrible traumatic event, And so she's a rather likable character. So I was hoping she would make it through, but no.
Yeah. So she's marching through. This bit did make me laugh. She's marching through the sort of words. Gemma's just like, I can't deal with this, and takes Katie home. Right? She just ducks out of this presentation.
Now is this after Katie has smacked her, like hit her in the face with a punch?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a brutal punch.
Yeah, that kind of makes Gemma realise that this isn't right. We got to sort this out. We got to start afresh, as it were. But meanwhile, Megan's kind of gone mad, and David is confronts Megan and is like, "You should be in the lab." And then Megan just starts doing a weird little dance, which made me laugh.
That made me laugh too.
It also made me think of I don't know if you've seen it, but the Wednesday Netflix show. There's one point where Wednesday does this weird dance at school function, school disco, and the dance that Megan does is kind of similar. It just made me laugh. But then she grabs like a paper cutter, like it's a massive sword, and then David's like, "Oh shit!" Was it David or is it another guy? I can't remember. Anyway, someone run.
It's the one guy who hacked into her files earlier.
Oh, that was.
I'm trying to remember which one.
Kurt.
Yes.
Who everyone doesn't like either, and also Kate. Megan actually says when she meets Kurt, she knows exactly what he's been doing. It's like she's wired into the computers around the place. She's not more than just a lone AI now. She's kind of interacting with other systems as well.
Yeah, she's hacked into the little Amazon box even at home. I apologize, I'm blanking. Not the Kindle, but
they call it something else. No, it's like an Alexa, but they call it something
Alexa,
LC or something. They call it in this or something like that.
Yeah, it's something like that.
Basically, she kills the horrible boss, and then says, yeah. Basically, she kills both of them, but as she's killing Kurt, she sort of says, yeah, it'll be a. He discovered that you were selling secrets. You killed him and then couldn't handle it and killed yourself. So she kind of grabs his own hand and forces him to stab himself.
Yeah, that was brutal.
Yeah, and then she goes. Megan drives a car. Steals a car, drives a car.
Yeah, I was like, that's got to be the boss's car, you know.
Yeah. She goes back to it. And there's basically the finale, right? There's a bit. Megan wants to look after Katie. She doesn't want Gemma in the picture at all. Is
right.
So Gemma tries to stop her by turning it off and damages her a bit, and it gets a bit Terminator-y, doesn't it? The ending.
It does. Yeah, that's kind of the only.
Megan's getting damaged but keeps going. It's kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of the same way at like the original Terminator. You know, like the Terminator gets like blown up and then there's fire everywhere, and then the skeleton gets up and it's like, oh my god, come on. And that's kind of how I was at the very end. Like, I was on board until that very end, and then I was like, okay, good Lord, she's back up again.
I like that bit. I thought it was kind of cool, because you kind of expect it from the Terminator almost. Right.
We as the audience do expect it, so I think it does work better in this than the original Terminator. But yeah, I still had the same reaction of, really?
Yeah, and she's just about to strangle Gemma, isn't she? And but Katie puts on the thing that powers the other robot, the original robot that Gemma built, and uses that to attack Megan, rips her in half, basically. And then her wig comes off, a face comes off. She pulls her face off, and then there's the processing unit, which Katie gets a screwdriver and sticks it in the middle of the unit, does it? And that appears to destroy Megan. But, in grand sci-fi tradition, as it all seems to have wound down, we suddenly see this home device, this Alexa of his, suddenly light up, and the camera turns towards the camera watching. So yes, it's very Terminator-y and something's still around. I thought this was a great fun film, actually.
I enjoyed it a lot. really good fun. I mean, I love sci-fi and horror. Just that combination really works for me. Typically, space horror kind of sci-fi is what I really like. But this worked for me too really well. It's definitely got those Terminator vibes, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah. There's a touch of that. There's a touch of Chucky, but it's really well written. It is its own thing and explores the themes. It doesn't skirt the themes that a trash exploitation film wouldn't bother with, like how it affects a child bonding with such a thing, all of that sort of stuff.
I really enjoyed all that stuff too because having been around a good many children, like it makes you realize as an adult just how susceptible children are to things, especially traumatic events, and I thought that this film handles that really well and takes an interesting look at it,
Yeah. And they picked their actors well, so that helped
an
awful lot. But the script was very solid too. This is better than it has any right to be. That's how I agree. About it. Yes, you expect a sort of trashy throwaway kind of Chucky kind of rip-off, but it isn't. It's more than that. It kind of delivers more. So, a solid film.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Should we rate this one?
Yeah. What would you give it out of 5?
We're on 5. I'm glad you said that, Mark, because I think I would have forgotten this time. But man, I like it a lot. I think I'd be right at a 3 on it. Maybe even a 3.5. I like it a lot though. Really good.
I'll give it a 3.5. Yeah, straight down the middle. It's a lot of fun. And honestly, you could this is a pretty good way to spend 100 minutes.
Yeah, I feel like it's very rewatchable, and honestly, I had no problem with the pacing in this. It all flowed. I guess the only issue I had is maybe the little part with the camp, or not the camp, but the school when she starts the school.
The horrible kids. Yes.
Yeah, but even then, it's still. I'm just like, well, okay, I'll accept it. It's a movie. You have to get, I guess, a bit more of a body count, and you have to make. M3GAN a little bit more evil. So,
I mean, I have to say, there's no way there's such a school that the kids could just wander off into the woods.
No,
unless it was like a specific day trip, and but a school. Well, maybe this wasn't. I wasn't quite sure actually. That felt a bit like we have to put Katie in some sort of peril that M3GAN has to react to in a fairly terrible way.
Yeah,
to show what sort of thing she is in a way that also she doesn't get caught out, so it could be construed as an accident, which is how it kind of panned out, apart from the piece of ear.
That was well done though. Special effects, we should say that too. Really well done, I thought. I know there's got to be some CG stuff going in here, but I could never tell which. Whenever you can't tell, that's the magic of movies.
Yeah, there was
right?
an actress inside M3GAN. I don't know if it was a girl or a woman who was particularly small. I don't know. But I thought it was well done and it looked solid. Obviously, you could tell it was a girl. It wasn't an android.
Amy Donald is a New Zealand actress.
Okay.
That's according to Wikipedia anyway. So, yeah.
Okay.
She did a great job, and then the voice of Katie was done by someone else named Jenna Davis. So different voice.
Jenna Davis. I think she does voiceover for cartoons or animated shows or some sort.
Oh, I probably heard her at some point.
I could be wrong. Oh no, she doesn't. I'm totally wrong. It doesn't look like she does, but she does a good voice here. Yeah.
I mean, maybe
she does do. Yeah, no, I was wrong. She does. I was wrong about being wrong. She does do some animated shows too. She does Vampirina, for example. This is one of the credits.
Oh, cool. Never seen that one?
No, don't know that one. Yeah, no, this was good. I quite yeah. And I have to say, not only is it rewatchable, it's memorable.
It is.
This is my maybe third watch, and I remember most of it. But that didn't make it boring. I think it's always kind of fresh, so that's kind of cool. Yeah. So I don't think we've got much else to say on M3GAN really, other than we liked it.
Yeah, we did like it. And this has been fun as always, Mark. Of course, you'll hear Dracula doing our main outro here, but just to remind everyone, please check out the Facebook group when you get time. We'd love to hear from you. We always love to hear from our listeners, and we really appreciate everyone who takes the time because we know that everyone is very busy these days. And as always, if you'd like, if you're watching on YouTube or whether you're listening to the podcast, if you'd like us or give us a 5-star review. We really appreciate either. And please remember to subscribe to our YouTube page as well, because that helps us out too. So we thank everybody again for listening and for viewing. I'm amazed. Like, the YouTube numbers have been really, really good. Actually, the YouTube numbers are exceeding the podcast downloads now, which really surprises me, Mark.
Yeah, I'm amazed. I would never consume a podcast through YouTube, but that's me, right?
Yeah,
a lot of people do.
It's a good alternative,
Yeah. Do we usually put the links to our Facebook and our YouTube in the show notes?
Yes, I have.
Oh, okay. Right.
Now, I should note that the YouTube version comes out a few days after the audio version, and it is good we note that here, just so everyone knows. So, I mean, if you want to hear us, if you're just dying to hear us,
subscribe to the podcast. Yes.
Yeah, and honestly, the main reason for the difference is the rendering time, because I am actually using some stock footage, basically, that's done by a certain company, and so the rendering is actually pretty high quality video now.
Yeah.
And that, again, that's because of our listener base. And, since the YouTube version has grown so much, I wanted to put a little more time into it. But
cool.
But I really, again, thanks to everyone for listening. As always, we appreciate it. And Mark, thank you, man. This has been a blast. It's always fun.
We'll have another show out in a few weeks for sure. We just haven't decided what we're going to do next.
Yeah, I think we're pretty sure. But
no, 100% though.
Yeah, not 100%. We've been covering some recent stuff, really, which is unusual for us, I feel like. We kind of go back and forth. But
yeah, maybe we should do something older. I'm not sure. We'll have a think.
We'll talk
but we're trying to put out shows more regularly, so it doesn't really matter. It's not like you'll be waiting a long time till the next one. So, that'd be fun. All right, then. Let's lead us out, Jason.
All right. Thanks, everybody. I've been Jason.
And I've been Mark.
And we're going to toss it to Dracula. We'll see you next time right here on the United Nations of Horror.
The United Nations of Horror is a podcast about all things horror. From thrillers of yesteryear to today's modern horror, we are here to present fun and intelligent conversation about the genre films we love. Join us and please help spread the word about the United Nations of Horror podcast and videocast to horror fans across the globe. Find the podcast on all fine podcasting services. Join us on Facebook by simply going to facebook.com and entering in United Nations of Horror. You can also find us on YouTube by going to youtube.com and searching for United Nations of Horror podcast.